Now, somebody who's been a friend of the show the last few years, always good with his time, and now live right here in studio, Jonathan Coachman. Jonathan, how are you, man?
Well, first of all, let's just start with this. I don't know that I've ever had, in the history of my existence, somebody introduce me as Jonathan Coachman. So if you don't mind, can we start this segment over and please pay me the respects that I deserve and say the coach
I love it.
is in the studio.
I'm sorry.
Please.
You know why?
It hurts.
You know what?
It's offensive.
Me as a pro wrestling fan should have picked up on that right away, but you're a guy that has many faces.
Yeah, but you see, here's the problem. I was going to introduce him the correct way, but you begged me. You're like, can I please introduce him today? And I was like, sure, just do it right. And you totally crapped the bed.
It doesn't surprise me, Bully Ray, that would happen. Because I thought coming in that you would have everything under control. That clearly is not the case. That's okay. As you start to evolve as a legitimate big-time co-host in the world of SiriusXM Radio, you will know when to not even ask and just take over. Okay? So let's start it over and let's see what we can do this time, please.
I got intimidated because you came in with a suit and a tie. Whenever somebody has a tie on, it intimidates me. I got to be honest with you, but that's okay. Listen, I don't see things like lead host, co-host. I don't see those things. I'm a team player. So I'll do what Bully wanted to do in the first place. Bully, I'll let you introduce the guest.
Thank you.
This guest is an sports entertainment superstar. This is a man who deserves his props. This is a man who, I don't know if he's going to get mad that I'm going to say this, he took ESPN to new heights in my eyes. This is a man that belongs behind a microphone. This is a man that can make the Golf Channel entertaining. This is the coach.
Now that is how you get it done.
It's a damn good introduction.
It is, and it was all true. It was all true. Here's the thing, and why I'm so excited to be here with you today. Because me and Bully Ray, we go way back, and I had some issues that I needed to deal with today because there are a lot of fans out there which we could not do any of this without them. And there's this one particular fan who likes to post stuff on social media and say, "Hey, 13 years ago today, 12, whatever it was." So on Friday, it just happened to be the Dudley boys putting yours truly through a table. And, of course, over and over and over, I'm getting all of these social media comments about, oh, you didn't even drop the mic. Oh, you went through it perfectly. I'm telling you what, I was scared out of my mind. So I try to act like I'm this big, tough guy. But understand this. I was honored, privileged, and I put this on social media to be able to have the Dudley boys, the future Hall of Famers, no doubt, put me through a table.
What's that moment like when you're up in the air? It's one thing, everything that happens before and everything that happens, but just that moment when you're up in the air and you know that the next 3 seconds is going to be hell.
It's not so much the moment right before you go up in the air. It's about 2 minutes prior to when you know that it's coming and you're just like, damn, do not do this incorrectly. Because that's one of those moves that if you don't go at it 100%, it's going to look like crap, right? I remember one time when Todd Grisham, my best friend, took a super kick from Shawn Michaels, and the one thing Shawn Michaels told him, don't back up your head. So what did Todd Grisham do?
Yep.
He backed up his head, so Shawn Michaels missed him by like 6 or 7 inches. It looked like crap. So when you're taking the 3D through the table, it has to be perfection, and those two guys have to be perfect as well, and I've never seen them, at least in my recollection, in all the times that we worked together and that I was at ringside, ever miss a 3D through the table. It was incredible.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. And as I replied back to you on social media, you took it like a champ. You did really great with it. And my memory of that day is that you were legit terrified.
I was.
You really?
Wait, I was, because there were certain things I had never done before. You got to understand that I came to the WWE as an announcer, and that's all I ever thought that I would be. Mm-hmm. And then I'll never forget, we were in the headquarters working out, and Vince walks up to me, and he likes to call people pal. Hey, pal. And we were thinking about doing this, and you've got the size, and if you could just work a little bit, maybe you can do some physical stuff and become a character instead of just holding a microphone in the back. And your world changes And Bully Ray can tell you this, that once you start taking bumps, then you're just, in the eyes of the superstars, the ladies, whatever, even the fans, the perception of you changes. And so I said, you know what, let's give it a shot. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But I wanted to be in the mix. I wanted to be in the game, so to speak. Because I've always said this, I'd rather be in the game and get knocked down a few times than be on the sidelines watching. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I decided to do. So I've taken every finisher in the books over the course of a 4 or 5 year period. But that was the one move that I was legit terrified to take, because when you look at it really, really fast and don't slow it down, you think your face is going to smash through and for anybody that knows me, I like my face.
You are very pretty.
Thank you very much.
Handsome.
It has stood the test of time, despite going through a table.
You have been involved with so many fun, exciting moments.
Yeah.
During the history of Monday Night Raw. Top of your head, other than the table, which I appreciate, give me some of your fondest memories.
Well, there were so many, and I always like doing the funny things, because when I think back, and I happened to come to the WWE when all the big guys were there. It was, Rock was really starting to take off. Stone Cold was red hot. Taker, you had legitimately 15 to 20 guys that could main event a pay-per-view, which made it ultra competitive. And to be in the mix with those guys was amazing. But to watch Stone Cold work up close, and for anybody that thinks it's not a competitive atmosphere, is so sorely mistaken. And even though now it's a 3-hour show, back then it was just a 2-hour show. So now you've got matches that go through breaks. You may see guys 2 or 3 times during the show. Back then that wasn't the case. So you wanted either to be in the main event, be in that first promo to come out and promote the main event, and those guys had those moments. And me and The Rock were inseparable for the first couple of years. And to watch him work up close and just have that raw crowd in the palm of his hand was incredible. But my favorite moment was after The Rock left, and me and Eugene had our rivalry, and he was Eric Bischoff's nephew. And The Rock called up, and we were going to be in San Diego. He said, hey, listen, I'm in town. I'd love to do something with Eugene, because if people remember his character, he was a wrestling savant. He just wanted friends, right? So we snuck The Rock into the building in San Diego, which is very difficult to do, right? And the whole segment was going to be Grisham introduces Eugene. I come down and just cut a heel promo and send Eugene packing. And as soon as he gets back up the ramp, we hit The Rock's music. And it was supposed to be an 11-minute segment. And, boy, they called me in the middle of the week, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. This is The Rock's idea. It was Rock's idea. And Bully Ray will tell you, Rock was very giving if he thought it was the right thing to do, right? And so this was his idea. So I knew, am I going to say no to doing that? Hell no, I'm not going to say no to that. So I get there, and I'm so excited all day. It's 11 minutes. And the one thing that The Rock always taught me is if you're going to go over time, make sure that it's great. Because if it's great, there's nothing Vince is going to say to you. But if it's not great, then you have a problem. So we sneak Rock in. Nobody knew he was there. Eugene backs up the ramp, and it's the only time in my entire career that I came out of character and just looked around in amazement. They hit his music, and I'm telling you what, I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. He comes out, and those 15,000 fans in San Diego literally came unglued. It was amazing. And then he came down, and for the first time in my career, I was allowed to insult The Rock back. Right? So he insults me, calls me whatever, popcorn fart or whatever it was. And I said, wait a second, Rock. The last time we saw you, because remember, he wasn't around very much. He had been laid out at WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden the previous April. So last time we saw you, you were flat on your back looking up at the stars at Madison Square Garden. The crowd was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Did you just say that to him? And then it ended up being 22 minutes because he just let the crowd go. He would wait. Nobody could kill a minute better than The Rock. And that, for me, is my favorite memory. And if you go back, I've watched it no less than 25 times over the years online, 22-minute segment.
When you just said it was 11 minutes, I was laughing my ass off in my head because I knew if Rock is involved and there's a time, there's no way in hell you stick it to the time.
That's right.
But like you said, if you're going to go over, it better be really damn good. Otherwise, your bags will be packed by the time you get, backstage.
Mm-hmm. Talk about Vince McMahon, because as fans, we hear all these different stories about what he's like, who he is, dislikes, there's all these stories. What was it like working with Vince McMahon?
He liked me a lot. And so because of that, I was very, very close to him a lot, whether it was flying on his plane, whether it was, I would host every press conference for, back then we would if we were going to do something in Kansas City a month, we'd fly there the month before and then promote it. He's very difficult to be around sometimes, but there's nobody else that I'd rather work with. Part of the reason that I was able to survive at ESPN for almost 10 years is because of what I learned from Vince, and that is business comes first. You never burn any bridges, and you always do what's right for the business, and they don't always do that there, and that was very frustrating. And also, you show up, and the one thing that Vince taught us is you show up. I've seen him actually fire a talent because they went out on a autograph session on Tuesday, and then a blizzard was coming to their town, and they went back home and then got stuck and couldn't get to TV. The one thing you do in this business and for Vince is you show up. And the first time he asked me to go to Afghanistan, I was next to him the entire way. And, there's been some famous stories of me exploding a Red Bull in his face right before he went out to do a promo. That is real. I did that, and it was hilarious, and the story is very funny. He also was the orchestrator of an incredible rib on me in North Carolina that I got arrested and taken to jail. And it was a 45-minute to an hour rib in the middle of the day when we're getting ready for a TV show. So when he really likes you, that's how he shows it to you. But he's very difficult to work with. He's very demanding. He demands excellence. He doesn't always make the right call. And I've been very honest about that. But when you're doing 51 weeks a year, it's hard to do things right every single time and to make it red hot. But as far as leadership is concerned, I don't know that there's a better leader because you always know which direction you're going. It may not always be the right direction, but you know where you're going. And if he's wrong, he'll fix it.
I've told Dave, and I try to bring our listeners in as to what it's like to deal with Vince. Coach, tell me if you agree. My opinion was that Vince was the easiest guy to talk to in WWE because you'd get a straight answer from Vince.
Always. There was no waste of time. Now, did that bring frustration sometimes? Sure it did. Of course it did. But if you went in like the Dudley Boys did a lot, and he liked hungry talent. Like, I'm an idea guy. If I throw 10 things against the wall and one sticks, that's fantastic. If you don't want to sit on the sidelines, you better show up with some ideas, pitch them, and he will make time for you and say, I like this, I don't like this, keep it going. Look, the New Day is a perfect example of this. These are three guys that careers were basically over, and then somehow they come up with this, and they've created this incredible aura about them, and Vince signed off on that. But he was a guy that you better be ready to talk. Don't stumble over yourself. Get to the point, because he's got a million things going on, and he's at every TV. That's what's crazy to me now. It's 74 right now, 74 or 75 years old. I've always said this: he will die on the road. There will not be a Vince McMahon sitting at home watching the show at any point, because that's just who he is. Imagine if you have a baby, you want to see that baby grow until you can't watch it grow anymore.
You will have to pry it from his cold, dead hands, as he would tell you.
That's right.
And, and Coach just brought up like the New Day and saying how their career was over. Now look how over the New Day is. You don't just get a spot on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Jimmy Fallon
show.
Yeah.
That is when you know you are over. That's when you're starting to cross over into mainstream. So here is a team like the New Day, who I have witnessed with my own eyes sit outside Vince's door for an hour, patiently wait their turn so they could bounce ideas off of him. And Vince loves the entertainment aspect. If you could have a good match, great. But if you can go out there with a trombone and a box of cereal and get it over, he's going to love you. And that's what they've been able to do.
Here with the coach, one of the greatest voices and performers ever in the history of pro wrestling, joining us right here in studio on Busted Open. You talk about The Rock, you talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those are mainstream names at a time when pro wrestling was mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of got away from it. I think it's back, and I think a big reason is because of you. What you're able to do with ESPN really brought the WWE back to the mainstream. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel a little bit of pride about doing that?
I feel a lot of pride, to be 100% honest with you. And when we decided to try and push the envelope a little bit, I got a call, it was 2.5 years ago now, and from the office, and they say, listen, can you help us? We need, they knew. And that's one of the biggest criticisms of Vince over the years, is that he always felt like the superstars is all that we need. But in today's society with social media and everything, you need crossover all the time. And so they realized that. And there is no more crossover, at least at the time, than ESPN. And so I went in and I fought hard. And we created, me and these 4 other guys, and I got to give them credit. We called them Coaches Crew. And like within the building, that's what we were known as. And I'm very proud of the fact that we not only got a segment every week on SportsCenter, but it became the highest rated segment when we posted to social media. We created a drop down on ESPN.com that if you go there today, it'll be NBA, NFL, and WWE's right there, right at the top. It's entertainment to me, and I got in trouble when I tweeted this. I said journalism is dead as we know it. That anybody that wants to write for the Washington Post and go to college and be a writer, stop right now, because your career will never take off. And entertainment needs to be the number one thing. If you don't entertain me, I'm turning the channel. And that's what I told my bosses at ESPN. This is entertaining, and who cares where the eyeballs come from? But if they come and they're looking at my segment with the Dudley Boys or Goldberg or whoever, and they happen to go and read the story on the Clippers and the Warriors, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. And luckily a few people heard me, but I got to tell you, not enough did, and they're still doing it, but they dropped the ball. They could have done so much more. And you're going to see, I've got several projects in the works right now, and every single project that I'm doing, I pitched to ESPN, and they said no to. And everybody else, now that I decided to leave, is like, we'll do that. We'll do that. It was just very frustrating towards the end. And I said, you know what? My boss on SportsCenter, I was like, you're so short-sighted on what we need to be doing that it's incredible to me. True story. When Conor McGregor fought Nate Diaz the second time, it was the night before SummerSlam, 2016. I went to them. I said, listen, call NetJets, call Wheels Up. Let's do the biggest fight weekend of the year. Give me a camera. I'll go to Vegas, cover the fight, get on a private jet, fly to Barclays Center, do it. Then 11 o'clock Sunday night, we'll do a big package. How great would that have been? So I walked into my boss's office. He's like, can't do it. Nobody's going to want to watch that. Nobody's going to want to watch that. I've already sent 3 cameras to preseason football games in August 2016. True story. I said, you've got to be kidding me. And so then fast forward a year when I'm getting ready to leave. So I went to his boss and I said, did this ever cross your desk? He's like, no, we would have absolutely have done that. That's when I learned. But what I learned from Vince years ago is you don't go above. It's protocol. You have to trust the person that's right above you. And maybe I made that mistake, but I also am a guy that understands and respects who my bosses are. But those are the type of stories that I would pitch that they would say no to. Big misses. Big misses.
And Coach did such a phenomenal job because you grew that idea out of nothing, and you made that whole WWE segment on ESPN mean something. And to think that pro wrestling was doing the highest ratings on ESPN, the quote-unquote legitimate sports channel. And, wrestlers will never really admit when they mark out for something, and I'm going to admit it right now. When you told me, hey, I want to have you and Devon on the sit down, the whatever the segment was called,
off the top rope.
Yeah, off top rope. I was like, yes. Like, it was a big deal because I'd never been on SportsCenter before, and for all the things that we had accomplished, this was a mainstream thing for me and Devon, and I really appreciated it, and it was cool.
Well, thank you.
It brought an entertainment factor to ESPN that I think had been missing since like the entertaining characters like a Chris Berman or any of the entertainment guys and yourself.
Absolutely.
You were the most entertaining guy there. Now it seems like we have a lot of talking heads.
Well, I dare you to pick somebody out that's not Stephen A. Smith at ESPN right now. And it's not necessarily the talent's fault. They don't get pushed. And just like in the wrestling business, if you don't get a push, then nobody's going to know who you are. I cannot even tell you how many times, so many times, that I'd be walking through the buildings, and I remember the sit-down we did, and we were lucky because it happened to be local, so we were able to make it look really, really good. And people would come up right after, man, that was amazing. And you don't have, our segments would be 12 to 15 minutes. In the world of television, to do 12 to 15 minutes of time straight, and to not have somebody walk in and say that's never happening again is crazy. And that's what we did every single week. And people would come up and say, man, that was so amazing. I didn't know that about this person or this tag team or Alexa Bliss talking about an eating disorder. It wasn't just about wrestling. It was about getting to know the people and getting to know the characters. And that's what, to me, sports entertainment is all about. And that's when the fans really care. And we got that at ESPN, and they just wouldn't let us carry it on to the level that I believe that we should have. So I said, you know what? We're going to do it someplace else, and that's exactly what we're doing right now.
How does it feel to kind of be away from the camera and be on the radio?
It feels good. I mean, I've always said that the radio is my calling, and I've had my own show at ESPN Radio for a while. But to do it the way that you want to do it and talk about what you want to talk about, that is incredibly fun, and I'm having a blast with you guys today. So thank you. And I also knew that I only needed to tell you once how to introduce me. And I've often thought, tell me what you guys think about this, at changing my moniker from the coach to the one. Because I'm the only one that's ever been the voice of Monday Night Raw and also the marquee brand in sports television in SportsCenter. I'm the only person on the history of the planet. In the history of the planet.
Wow.
In the history of the world.
Think about that. The history of the world.
The one.
The one.
Think about that.
You are the Morpheus.
Thank you. God, I don't even know what that means.
The Alpha, the Omega,
really cool.
the one.
Yes.
Absolutely.
My friend said, hell no, you can't go with that. So I'll stick with the coach.
You said your calling is radio. Perfect world. What is your radio show? Coach has 3 or 4 hours a day to talk about. What are you talking about? What's your wheelhouse?
I think my wheelhouse is 4 things that I truly have a passion for. Is I love, one thing I've realized in the last couple of years is that my core should be sports entertainment. This is the world that I grew up in. I got there in my really early 20s, and this is what I know, and this is who I am, and this is how I was created. But I grew up wanting to be a sportscaster, so I love the NFL. I love golf, and I think those things can really help when you have entertaining people doing it in an entertaining way. And I think that I'll give a lot of networks credit that they're looking at their numbers and they're saying, how can we get more listeners, get more eyeballs? And I think when you incorporate how people are doing it with the content. So in a perfect world, doing sports entertainment, pro wrestling. Also, I'm a big UFC fan. But then also, like I just announced last week, I'm going to be the new voice of the World Long Drive Championships on the Golf Channel. Who would have ever thought that the coach would be in business with the Golf Channel? But they understand, and they've got leadership down there in Orlando. They're like, we've got to change, and we've got to evolve. And yes, golf is our core product, but we need to bring it in a more entertaining way. And that's what I want to do going forward, whether it's with a new radio show or with the different projects that I'll be doing.
I kind of like it, the one. I think we should go with that. The one.
And the Long Drive Championship is so perfect because it's basically golf's version of the home run derby.
Yes.
And people can sit back and relate to somebody hitting a ball really, really far. Mm-hmm. And I've watched it myself, and I can immediately see you with that microphone in your hand right next to these guys doing their Long Drive Championship and, getting them over, getting them their characters over, telling people a story at home. I could even see you stirring one guy up against the next guy, like, he just hit that ball farther than you, and your wife is watching, so you might as well, I can definitely see that working, and I think you're going to do a great job at it.
Thank you very much. And a lot of what you just said, I kind of pitched to them when we met with them, because I'll be honest, much like we talked about the last segment, I always have to, and we're getting closer to not having to, but I still got to pitch myself. Pitch myself. So when you walk into the Golf Channel studios, people look at you like you've got 3 legs or something. They're like, why is that that guy. We know what he's done. We know who he is. Why is he here? And when I sat down with him, I said, it's all about storytelling. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same formula that if you don't get guys over, then nobody's going to care. And a lot of the long drive guys, as you've seen, they have these wrestling personas. The biggest star in the game is the biggest Ric Flair fan that you've ever seen. And when he wins, he goes into a promo just like Ric Flair would have done back in the 80s. So that's what I want. I'm at a point in my career, guys, that, and I think we've all been there at some point. I used to be very, very selfish. And it used to be all about me. And I'm so far away from that now. I want to see everybody win. I want to see everybody raise each other up. I want to be positive because I got stuck in such a negative situation. And now, and I don't want to harp on ESPN, but when you watch and they bring politics into sports and all these different things, sports is fun to me. And like, this is fun. It's
supposed to be an escape.
Yes, it's what it's supposed to be. So I was so excited to walk in here today because I knew it would be fun. I was going to be sitting with you guys. That, to me, is what I want my career to be going forward. And I want people who hear whatever projects I'm on to hear that. To hear, well, this guy's having a good time, so then I can have a good time as well. And that's my sole focus.